All right, so my camera's messed up and Grant doesn't have one, and Chris is presenting, so he's the only guy you need to see anyway. And hopefully you're looking at the screen. So what we're going to do is a crash course on how to process an image in Lightburn and just in Lightburn. Now the version that he's using is a beta version, so the interface will look a little different, but the values and the things that he's doing will be the same. And then soon enough, you'll have the new interface, so it'll all kind of fall together. So I'm going to turn it over to Chris and let him do his thing.
All right, so we're going to also be discussing with Grant, and Grant's got some questions. He's not only is he a great addition to our team, he is trying like hell to learn about photos, and he's got a bunch of questions, and we're going to run through that as well as show you the different image processing features of Lightburn. So I just downloaded an image, and I'm going to go real quick and see if I can grab it and bring it in, and then we can get started with the questions. All right, we have an image, and of course, I think I've told you, Grant and Brian, you know, if you're bringing garbage in, you're going to get garbage out, and that is always the case. So we want the best resolution we can. Lightburn does get a little laggy when we get up to about 1,000 DPI, but it can still process it if you give it some time. You got to remember that all of these processes that Lightburn uses, you're getting a dot pattern. You're getting a breakdown of the image in dots, and to create a better dot pattern and create a better image for the laser to use, you want to give Lightburn as much information as possible. So anywhere between 300 and 1,000 DPI should be excellent to achieve great quality.
Nice.
All right, so we have that image here. And actually, I'm gonna make it a little smaller and zoom in. Another thing that a lot of people don't realize is that if you're using a lot of these image R or what's that one really expensive one, Brian?
Photograph or Photograph.
Photograph.
Yeah, that's what I use. I cheat. That's why I'm here today too.
You have to do a lot of matching of DPIs, and there's a lot of stuff to be concerned about before you even bring it in, if I'm not mistaken. I remember having to match DPIs and that being a concern.
If you give you an error if it didn't match the laser's projected DPI output and that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you go too high on it, it'll actually throw a crazy image out. Luckily, Lightburn does all the processing internally, so no matter what you bring in and no matter what you're going out to the laser, it knows enough, it's smart enough to make the image correct on the output side. So less to be concerned about and much easier, a lot less thought put on the user end than with some of these other programs. Go to shape properties. All right, so typically when you want to process an image, we have our cut layers. We will double click on our cut layer, and this is our section for our process choices. Grant, what do you got as far as these? Have these been confusing for you?
Somewhat, but really, I think when I first started, Clay had told me that Jarvis is really like the go-to one, so I would use Jarvis a lot. And then I remember when you and I worked on, I think it wasn't the Spider-Man picture, it was the Viking picture. I was going to wood, and you said to use Grayscale, and we did some different things in like speed and power and stuff like that. So it is confusing. I don't know when to use which one.
Got it. So there's some that you're not going to use, and some of them that are artistic. Threshold, and the great thing about Lightburn, it's going to give you a small description. And now with the current beta, I'm not sure when it's going to be released, it's going to give you a side-by-side to help you determine, one, your adjustments of speed, power, and also, you know, the process that you're going to use. So if we look at, let's just pick threshold real quick, and basically this is going to take the lights and the darks, and it's going to give you a creative result. It's not going to do anything spectacular. You're not going to get a full-blown image here. And this is 1,000 by 1,000 photos or something like that. It's rather large. Yeah, just processing this photo might be a bit much for it.
You wouldn't want to do that in RDWorks, I don't think.
Absolutely not. RD, it would shut down. Let's see here. All right, so and of course in Lightburn we do have the ability, depending on what we're doing an engraving on, to change the negative image. And I have I was just doing a photo on glass, so some of my stuff here is pretty darn high. So we'll change this down for speed purpose. We'll do 3.
And I'm going to interject real quick, because like 99.9% of everybody that I ever talk to, even if they measure things in imperial, they still talk about speed in millimeters per second. So I just want to make everybody aware that Chris's screen, all of his speeds are inches, inches per second.
It
inches.
is inches. It is inches per second. Yep. I'm
So
one of
you
those
have to do
people
all that.
that refuse to give in. All right, let's see if that's sped it up a little bit. There we go. Okay, so we were back on the halftone, I believe.
Yeah. Are you going to show the cool thing?
Yes, I will. Did we want to go through all of these different orders, or just stick with the ones that work the best?
Wouldn't a Jarvis or a Stucky be the best, kind of like all around, kind of like the 2-inch lens of the dithering? You know what I mean? As far as what people are going to bring in, at least for the purposes of this crash course, maybe.
Yeah, and
I mean, you can describe them all,
right.
and if or whatever, it's up to you.
Okay. Yeah, and Dither, Stucky, Jarvis, those are all quick, excellent ones to go through, and you're going to get a great result.
Yeah. And all of those also, sorry, Chris, I was looking for information on this in the laser realm, and it was kind of sparse. But this is the same exact thing as print. So if you go to some of these printing groups, and look at some of their data, and their knowledge bases about Stucky and newsprint and all of that, and the halftones, all of that information that's in there that they talk about printing presses and digital printing or whatever is identical to this. So you can really garner a lot of information from those sources, kind of thinking outside the box, looking for that, or Wikipedia.
Yeah, and even the halftone, I mean, everybody's really confused. They start talking about the scan angle. When I start telling them that, make sure that you have a halftone angle of, it has to be odd numbers, but the idea is you're changing the angle the dots are being laid to confuse the eye of the pattern. You don't want to see the pattern, you just want to see the picture. And 22.5 has been used in print forever.
Yeah.
So that's
I think that has something to do with that number not being real, or being kind of impervious to the Moiré effect, probably. I mean, you could probably use that number to correct that also.
Yeah, I mean, you do anything else. I mean, if we look at the patterns down the bottom now, we went to a 40-degree angle. You can definitely see all the patterning, and you want to try to avoid that completely. And you can play around with that. There's some that are better than others, but 22.5 seems to work really, really well.
Cool.
So going back to, what are we on? We are on halftone. We do a real quick run through threshold. Like I said, threshold is not going to give you anything crazy. A lot of people, when they go to do their first image, it's kind of stuck, or it just generically is set to threshold, and they're doing it and it comes out like that, and they're like, what the heck? There's no, there's no detail to it, and it's literally taking your brightest brights and your darkest darks and creating an image.
It looks kind of cool.
It does, and it's great for, doing something artistic.
Mhm.
Real quick, we'll go to ordered, I believe is, it's going to be more patternish. And another problem a lot of people have is that they don't zoom into the photo, and it's usually either a really light photo or a dark photo. Switch that around. So they'll zoom out and like, well, I have no detail. Well, zoom on in. It's very hard for the computer screen to process all of these little dots. But once you zoom in, you'll be able to tell exactly what you're going to get. Ordered. And then Atkinson, we'll just skip right to Jarvis, because Atkinson to Jarvis are all about the same. I typically revert to Jarvis. I think after a lot of testing, it seems to give me the best result.
I do have a quick question.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
do you pick a specific mode, for lack of better words, for specific materials, or is it just relative to the photo? It doesn't matter what material.
It does, because halftone, I tend to find lays such a tight pattern of dots that it'll blow out a lot of things. It'll it works really well on some stuff. Painted tiles, painted tumblers that have a thin layer of paint, not necessarily a thick Yeti style.
Yeah, edge lit acrylic. It'd probably be good for edge lit.
Yep.
Surface engraving.
Yep. Yeah, it works really well. The issue that I have with it, I can really come close to getting the same quality out of Jarvis, running 2 times as fast, because of the dot pattern, and you can probably hop in here, Brian, correct me,
Yep.
but the dot pattern on halftone is so tight that you need to run a really, really high DPI, which means you're doubling or tripling your runtime. You're going to get almost a photorealistic image, but I mean, if you're trying to make money, it may not be the way to go. So sticking with a Jarvis, may be the best bet for great quality. Offsetting, balancing the speed factor and the quality factor.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So that's usually really where I make my determination, and then I play around. Can I get a little bit better quality if I'm trying to do an image on acrylic with halftone? Typically, yes, I can, but I can come very, very close. But like I said, it changes your DPI drastically. I can run with a high resolution lens or a 1.5 inch lens. I could run almost 1,000 to 1,200 DPI in halftone. Well, don't try that with Jarvis.
Yeah,
you're going to be down at 3 to 500 maybe. Pushing the limits. I mean, you better be tuned. Your scan offset better be right. Your alignment better be perfect.
Mirrors clean.
And that's why Lightburn mirrors clean, and that's why Lightburn has a built-in warning, because unless you have all that stuff dialed in perfectly, you're not going to achieve those really, really high DPI settings.
Yeah.
But we'll stick with Jarvis.
Okay.
For right now.
And to get a little off topic, so I've done a picture of a lion. I may have sent you the picture. I ran it like 6 times, 5 or 6 times, because I couldn't see the detail that I wanted. So I don't know if I'm going too fast, not using enough power, or what it is, but I feel like I have it all set up correctly, and it's just I can't get it right the first couple times. I have to keep going over and over.
And when I'm doing photos, I mean, we are trying to lay down all of these tiny, tiny dots. And while, I'm not sure of the capabilities of the power supply in the tube, that's Brian's area. I do know that the faster we go, the less, or the more likely we are to miss those dots. you know, so I go a little bit slower, but there is a threshold. You know, somewhere around 4 to 6 inches per second, which whatever that equates to in millimeters. I noticed you start getting banding, so you have to go a little bit faster. I keep it between 10 inches and 14 inches a second when doing photos, just so I know I'm laying down every single dot that's possible. And I think Brian's doing some math in the back.
Yeah, I hate that. That's 10 inches per second is 254 millimeters per second.
Okay.
So, you know, 300, 350 down in there.
So it, Grant, if you do start to get banding, you know, a curtain effect, maybe speed it up a little bit. I've noticed, like I said, I've noticed it down low. So try to keep it between 10 and 14 inches per second.
Yeah.
Power is going to completely depend on material.
Yeah.
You know, if we have a light, say we took a piece of acrylic and we lightly painted it with some flat black, and we just really want to pull off that layer, you know, I'm close to the firing threshold of the laser. You know,
Yeah.
9, 10, 11, somewhere around there. I'm barely touching the surface of that, just picking away dots, and that's all that I'm doing. Otherwise you're blowing out all of those dots around the dot that you know,
Right.
you're wiping away material or paint.
It's like using a Sharpie instead of a fine point pen.
Right.
Yep,
And
exactly.
I just want to clarify, Chris has a 100-watt
Yeah.
number 51.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, I'm at 100 watts, and you know, regardless of the rumors,
actually, but yeah.
regardless of the rumors, you can easily get beautiful pictures using a 100-watt laser, even 130 watt.
Yeah.
So Jarvis, very simple go-to. You can easily speed up your engraving time by using something like this over Grayscale, or Grayscale is going to be about the same DPI as something like that, something like Jarvis. But halftone is a ridiculous amount.
Sorry, can I interrupt real quick? There is
Yeah.
a distinction between Grayscale and all this other stuff we're doing, because it varies the power, whereas these others technically don't. They're either on or off making the dots. So
Correct.
that makes a difference,
And
you know, in determining stuff. So
yeah, and Grayscale,
I
mean, no, and Grayscale is a totally different animal. We can briefly touch on that. You know, we'll get, you know, maybe towards the end of this we can get into Grayscale,
Yeah,
but that's a totally different animal.
Yeah, that might ought to be a different video.
Got it.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, that's more more of a three-dimensional engraving. Can be used for regular engraving as well, but more so for three-dimensional engraving or 3D relief. The newer part of Lightburn is going to be adjust image, which those of you that are used to photograph, it kind of gives you the side by side. You got the original image, and then you have the adjusted image over here. So you can, you know, do some messing with it. You can even change the DPI, and it will adjust. Also, the image modes. You know, we're at. That looks kind of patterny, doesn't it, Brian?
That's pretty awesome. So is this on the current version of Lightburn, or is this the beta?
This is the beta version of Lightburn. This is going to help out a ton of people that get really, really confused. And actually, the reason why we're getting the patterning is because my DPI is set down closer to something of a Jarvis 800. There we go. Now it's starting to go away. You can see how that would make a difference. And quite honestly, this is an exact translation into what the laser is going to try to do. So there's not as much guesswork as before, where you're picking these different different processes, you really are going to get a side-by-side representation of what you're going to get on the laser. Pretty cool, huh?
No, I like that a lot. It's going to help me.
Yeah, it's going to help a ton of people, and I think that's probably one of the things that may have been missing for people that just, you know, are reaching out and searching for all of these one-click options, which don't really exist because there's just too many variations in photos. Obviously, we're working with a photo that is from the internet that is perfect, and fairly easy to run a script on or anything else you want to, and it's going to come out good. But this is going to help out a ton of people.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, it's really
I think
cool.
we talked about this a little bit at the beginning, but I lost you in the audio. So when you're at the very beginning stage, when you have your photo or you're looking for a photo, what are you looking for? I know you touched on it, but I just wanted to go over it one more time because I couldn't hear it.
You
For
mean
a
as
photo, like if you wanted to grab one from the internet like this.
Right, like what?
I think he means, are you looking for that kind of you know, either defocused background or that contrast in the back so that it can pull that out, you know? So I think that's what he's asking. You don't want stuff that's real busy in the back, maybe. I mean, is that kind of what you're after, Grant? I mean, when you're, you know, trying to pick up a photo out of a stack of them, on which one you think might be the best?
Yeah, that's part of it. The other part is like if you're looking at a photo, what tells you yes, I can laser engrave this, and what tells you no?
Clear contrast, and that's as simple as I can make it. You need clear contrast, even if you're bringing in a photo of, you know, your family, shadows, stuff like that. I mean, of course, you know, for those of you that are new and those of you that have experience, if you haven't had this come across your desk yet, the person that sends the photo of a photo off of their iPhone, you know, with glare, you know, of the screen, you know, stuff like that is impossible to work with. So, you know, force them to send you originals. High shadowing, a lot of stuff you can get rid of working in Photoshop and some other photo editing programs, but yeah, again, the higher quality you start out with, the better the photo is, the positioning, all of that is going to be very helpful and beneficial for the end result.
Perfect. Thank you.
But as far as, you know, when I'm looking online for things to download, I'm doing a quick search for lion photo and usually high resolution. You can use any of the free photos and you can sign up and you get a certain amount per month. But if I click on this and I hover over it, I can see that this is a 1920 by 1200. That's going to be a huge photo with lots of information for Lightburn to do its dithering. So I would be more than happy to take that, bring it into Photoshop and clean up all the edges and just use his head. And then now with the side-by-side in Lightburn, it's going to make it that much easier to fine tune your highlights, you know, your sharpness and all edge detail. And edge detail and contrast are huge translating, because, you know, we're working with a black and white image. The laser can only do so much. It's not printing anything, it's laying down dots. So those definite or defined line in his head, the black spots around his eyes, you know, you want that stuff even on people's faces where it kind of looks really weird. You wouldn't ever print some of these photos that you'll retouch, but the more that you could pronounce the edge details, the better results you're going to get from the laser.
Cool.
questions? Anybody?
I'm good. I think you're hitting it right on the
Yeah,
head, man.
yeah.
There's just so much that I don't know, and I think the main thing is just getting in there, like you're saying, and playing with each and every one of those. It's going to be different for each material. Like acrylic and wood, it's going to act completely different. You also
What do
have
you,
the air variable.
yeah, all that. What
Yeah,
do you think
and
about that site that's got those Lightburn generation tools where you can output the eyeballs, and it does a power scale for you, and it'll define an array, of speeds and powers. It'll generate material test files, and it does a line interval. It has line interval generator tests and all kinds of stuff on it.
yeah, I mean, anything that you can do, like I have swatches of test material
Mhm.
in my shop, and I can see exactly what they're capable of. We know what the
Yeah,
machine can do, but
right.
what's the limitation of the material? You know,
Mhm.
if we are working with paint, it's not going to take much to eliminate all those dots around it.
Mhm.
Acrylic, at what point are we blowing away all of those surrounding areas of the plastic? So yeah, it's it, running some type of test pattern on these materials to know what the machine is capable of and what the material is capable of is highly beneficial.
Yeah.
Um, and the other thing to know is your focus, or not your focus, but your lens.
Mhm.
Um, what quality, how many dots can you put down? What is your resolution?
Mhm.
How many DPI can you run? And 90% of the time when I'm looking at some of these images people send me and say, hey, what am I doing wrong? Either they have the wrong process, or they're trying to run high DPI without the capability of doing so. They're
According,
running a 2.5, 3-inch lens.
yeah, according to Thunder
Good.
Laser China, on the standard 2-inch lens, the focal distance is 5 to 6.5, and the dot size is 0.099 millimeters, or 0.0039 inches for the standard 2-inch.
Right.
So, if that helps,
And
determining your line interval and stuff, so that your line
right,
interval matches your machine. So,
right. And focal distance is huge too.
mhm,
If you don't have that perfect view, maybe do a ramp test to see exactly where it is. I've noticed a lot of people buy cheap China-made lenses or eBay lenses or something like that, and the tolerances aren't there. It may
yeah,
be a 2-inch lens, and you're going off of the standard 2-inch,
yeah,
um,
and maybe
lens
made
cap
like they
that we
made the
typically
ones
would
for the
use.
K40.
Yeah,
Those-
yeah. I mean,
So, yeah, and
so
and ours
so
are
you know,
2.6 optics. Our lenses are 2.6. They're manufactured by 2.6. All the ones that
mhm.
Thunder USA sends out. So between them and I don't know. I've got a set of Steve's lenses here, and I'm gonna do a comparison whenever I get a minute, or whenever I get my machine back up, because I got some parts missing. So,
So in a previous life, when I had a different laser than a Thunder, um, there was, they give you the focus stick that you measure,
mhm.
um, and it was about an eighth out of the focus stick.
Yeah. Now, I've
So I
heard some
mean,
people say that ours are not right, and that's what it says on our on the site, is it's 5 to 6.5 millimeters. We say 6 millimeters, but it may
right?
be a little off. So, and they could use that test in Lightburn if they're comfortable moving the Z-axis a little bit,
Yeah, yeah,
doing the
and
focus
and
test
and
in
that's
there.
huge.
Yeah.
You know, the further away or the closer you get, you're going from the, again, a Sharpie to a fine point, a fine point pen. And the finer that dot is, the better results you're going to get, the more DPI you're going to lay down, because as you expand that beam size, obviously you're blowing away detail and you're defeating the purpose. Um, Two huge things: the focus and your scan interval, or your scanning offset.
Yeah.
Those need to be money. Those have to be money if you're trying to get any type of photo replication, high quality photo replication.
Mhm.
And
I just
let
linked
me zoom in real
the
quick.
basics of focus article in that chat just in case. It's got a little video in case people want it. Yeah.
I'm actually going to go this way. So scan offset is huge. We are trying to lay down tiny dots, and if your scan offset, let's see if this comes up quicker. You know, I don't even want to do the measurements that it has to be off for these to be misaligned.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if these are misaligned, you lose all quality whatsoever, because this is calculating based on shading. So if your scan offset is off, it's going to be completely messed up, and you're going to lose quality.
Yeah.
So that's another huge thing. You want these dots to line up where they're supposed to line up.
Yeah, and Grant he's a master at doing that visually, because I'm thinking, how do I write a knowledge base article on how to, redo your scanning offset adjustments unless you have a USB microscope and some calipers and, tweezers and stuff, because those are finite amounts. And then he's like, well, it's visual, right? And I'm like, yeah, I mean, ultimately that's what you're going for, is like, well, we just dial it in until it looks right.
Yeah,
and it worked perfectly.
And the video that I made on doing that, I typically use my cell phone. I'll use my cell phone. I'll zoom in and make micro adjustments right or left, and get it as perfect as possible. But those two are huge at getting a good quality photo.
Absolutely.
As far as, I think we've gone through just about everything. Knowing which item to use as far as negative image or a standard image. If you're doing it on acrylic, if you're doing it on glass, remember that anything like glass and acrylic, we're making the material lighter, so we're going to want to bring out or laser the light side, but typically the laser is engraving all of the dark stuff. So try to keep that in mind when you're trying to do an image. And a lot of people will, which one do I use? Well, think about what it's engraving. Is it engraving the lighter highlights? What's going to show up on that material?
Yeah, slate too. You want to definitely do a negative image when you're doing slate, stuff like that.
Slate.
Dark. Yeah.
Or do you have white tiles that you painted black and you're revealing all of the white behind it? You're going to do a negative. So it really depends. In most cases, on wood and stuff like that, you're using just a regular image. For everything else, lighter, where you're creating a, removing paints or the acrylic, you're using a negative image.
Yeah, unless you're doing the Nicky Norton.
Yes.
That's insane.
And I think that works better on diodes than it does for us on a CO2. Yeah.
Yeah. Now I want to try it on Odin. That's one reason I like these RF machines. I bet this RF machine will knock it out, because you can change the frequency on the RF tube and that might affect it. And it's a 30 watt, so I can dial down. I can dial down to a couple of watts if I want to, and or kick it up and go to 2,000 millimeters per second. And it'll probably be about as good as any 7-watt laser.
and I can only imagine the DPI you can pull out of that too.
Yeah. So as soon as I get the controller back in it, I'm going to fire up Odin. I've got my OBS studios all set up and I'm going to run everything remotely. I think I can do a recording, and I have a remote in one hand to control which camera is going, and I'm going to have multiple camera views, so I don't have to worry about producing anything. I just do it right as I'm doing it. If I walk over to the laser, I hit the laser cam, boom, 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 and then just send it to YouTube and I'm finished. So
nice.
I'm going to play with that when I'm doing this Odin stuff. So it's going to be cool. So Well, that helps. I'm going to play with this too. Especially since I can do that side by side now, which everybody else will be able to do soon. So.
Yep, soon. Don't know what the release date on it is. You know, but otherwise, you know what you're looking for. You know, the side by side is gonna help out a ton though for a lot of people that aren't comfortable, you know, using their shape properties and trying to figure out. I mean, you can see what happens, but
Let
you
me
know,
ask
what
you
did
a
I
question.
come from?
Would you get that? Would you get that file right there set up the way you would run it, and save it and send it to me and let me put it at the and as an attachment on the knowledge base article with this video, and that way they can pull the file in
Absolutely.
and manipulate it and use it and play with the stuff and kind of go along. So
Yeah, we
and do
can
it in
set
the
it
old format, not the Lightburn 2, because they won't be able to open it, I don't think, until they get the new version.
no, and I'm thinking that might have something to do with the communication as well.
Yeah. So, but you can still
Oddly,
save
I don't
as
know why, but there's something.
so,
Yeah, I can. Yeah, we can save
that'll be
as
awesome.
we can save as a legacy. Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah,
And
I
I'll
can
stick that
definitely do
with
that, and I'll leave it. Yeah, I'll maybe I'll do two an unedited version of just the photo, or I'll just send the photo, and then I can do it with my enhancements that I would do.
Yeah.
I
The
would.
original, that original would be cool too to pop on there. The original
Yeah,
photo that you built.
yeah. This
So,
way they
and
can.
also I'll plug your site your thing, House of Lasers, on your YouTube, because Chris has videos on a lot of this stuff we were talking about on his channel. So go check it out. There's some good info on there.
Yeah, this is the easy part of doing photos is taking something high quality and bringing it in. It's taking the stuff that people give you and making them laserable. That's where fine tuning and Lightburn's not capable of doing some of that stuff. So fine tuning all of that stuff externally is going to be huge to learn. And I have a couple of fairly decent videos on that.
Okay. Yeah. And especially I like the one about coming in from AI or something, how all the layers get kind of wacky and there's all that masking and stuff going on, and you got to do a lot of doctoring on it. So that's a great one.
Yeah. I mean, we have to think totally different than somebody that's in print and a graphic designer where they can just layer upon layer stuff. So yeah, it gets a little complicated. And if you're not new to it, or if you're new to it, then it could get quite overwhelming. But that's what our knowledge base is here for, and some of our forums and stuff like that. There's always somebody to help.
Yep. And the support system. So that's cool too. And Chris checks in on us over there from time to time. So that's
I try.
So, but I appreciate you doing this for us, man. And if you don't mind, I'll give you this. I'll record this and send you a link to it so you can upload it to your YouTube and brand it if you want to for HOL, or whatever as well. You can stick your Thunder logo on there too if you want to, but whatever, it's your stuff. So.
No, that's fine. Grant, before we wrap this up, you have any other major questions?
No, nothing major. It's really going to be me implementing this and testing it out. And then I'll probably have questions for you individually. But yeah, I'm excited. Thank you for doing it.
Not a problem. My pleasure. And hopefully some of that made sense. Just keep your DPI low and increase it as you on. Keep your speeds low and minimal power. You just want to create, little pinpricks is basically what you're trying to do.
Sure.
You're tattooing with a light beam.
There you go. I saw that video too. So, all right. Well, we appreciate it again, and hope you guys get something out of this, and we'll catch you next time.